welcome. I am Sonia Luna, CEO and founder of Aviva Spectrum, an internal audit and compliance consulting firm headquartered in sunny Los Angeles, California. I'm also a speaker and writer on topics like COSO 2013, SOX 404, Quality Assessment Reviews, internal auditing, and related topics. Today's interview, which I'm really excited about, is with Joe Koenig. Joe retired from Michigan State Police after 26 years and has 45 years of investigative experience in both the public and private sectors. He was the lead investigator on the James R. Hoffa case, which is amazing, and investigated homicides, organized crime, financial crimes, narcotics, and public corruption. He is the past president of the Michigan FBI National Academy Associates. He is a certified fraud examiner, holds a BS in accounting from Wayne State University, and a master's in public administration from Eastern Michigan University, where he was a member of the Phi Kappa Phi Honor Society. He now owns a financial fraud investigations firm called KMI Investigations, located in Western Michigan. He is the author of a brand new book, which I'm really excited to know more about. It's called Getting the Truth, and it's available on Amazon. Please check it out, Amazon.com. Welcome, Joe.
Well, thank you for welcoming, Sonia.
Well, I just wanted to get started about this book. Can you tell us a little bit about your book and the inspiration you had for writing it?
Well, the book is entitled Getting the Truth, and those words are important. It's not entitled Finding the Truth or Discovering the Truth, because those words are too passive. You need to be aggressive to get the truth. You need to go after it. The truth doesn't just surface. It actually hides. It hides when the interviewer allows the answers that contain misunderstood or undefined words. For example, what does worth mean to you if you ask an expert, what is the company worth? That expert will use that undefined word to his or her client's advantage. So the interviewer needs to define words in the question and to make sure the responder defines words in the responses to make sure there's clean and precise communication. The truth hides in poor communication. This book teaches the reader how to sense the tracks of truth and deception. When the book's principles are followed and applied, deception and truth are identified. The seed for my book was actually planted back in 1950. Most of your listening audience wasn't even around then. But I was age 4. I grew up in a small Midwest community. My neighbors up the hill from my house, the Teniers, just installed a cement driveway. And in those days, a cement driveway was 2 strips of concrete. The still curing concrete had sharp, jagged edges exposed by the ditches dug for the freshly removed wooden frames. Now, the Duttons on the other side had a detached garage that stood alone at the base of a hill. In those days, most garages were detached. I loved going into that garage, exploring and playing with his tools. It was a quiet, dark place like a treehouse. He was sitting there all alone and always full of new tools and projects. I knew I wasn't supposed to go in there, and I was told not to go in there many times. Mr. Dutton went to my mom on several occasions and told her to keep that kid out of his garage. One day I was playing on Mr. Tenier's driveway, slipped and scratched the top of my left knee, drew a little blood, but no big deal. So I became bored and obviously headed to Mr. Dutton's garage. I always liked opening his door to see what was new, and I turned on the light, stood there to look around to see what was new. This particular day, he had, when I turned on the light, there was a big axe on his tool table, and on the garage floor was a tree stump. I picked up the axe, and I can remember it as if it happened yesterday. The axe was heavy, and I could barely hold it. But I was hell-bent to swing it at that tree stump. I swung it at the tree stump. Of course, I missed it, and the axe embedded just below my knee, my left knee, leaving a big gaping vertical wound, blood all over. I ran home into my mom's house. She gasped, then asked, "Joey, what happened?" I responded with an almost imperceptible pause. I fell on Mr. Tennier's driveway. Well, we learn at the ages between 2 and 3 how to tell partial truths. Now, I intentionally call lies partial truths because we learn to tell partial truths, not complete lies. We rationalize that a partial truth is not a real lie when there's some truth in it, and we excuse ourselves. It's okay. There's some truth in my statement. When I said I fell on Mr. Tennier's driveway, I did fall on Mr. Tennier's driveway. But I know that my mom was looking at that big gaping wound below my left knee, which wasn't caused by Mr. Tennier's driveway, but was caused by the axe. But if I admitted to her that it was an axe from Mr. Dutton's driveway, I would have suffered further punishment. So, by telling a partial truth, it becomes kind of like a win-win. So we tell partial truths to further our agendas. We learn this at an early age, and we hone it every year of our lives, and we become good at it.
Yeah, well, I have a 3.5-year-old, and those partial truths are just popping up all over the place, more than what I would have expected.
Yeah, it's an amazing process, but it's those partial truths that leave tracks, and that's what this book is all about. How to discover those tracks and how to mine them and how to then get the truth from what they told you.
I love that concept you're sharing, about partial truths, and you got to mine them. And I know our listeners would like to hear, how writing this book helped you become, and maybe give some advice on how to be a better certified fraud examiner, knowing that, especially the principles that you were mentioning in the book. Can you share that with our listeners?
I'd love to. I hope your audience listened to a recent interview you had with David Rolander, the author of CEO Code, because many of his ideas are based on reading people patterns. And that's really what good interviewing is all about, reading people's communication patterns. People don't tell complete lies. I said that before. They tell partial truths. And you find the truth by following tracks that are left behind. Now, what are tracks, for example? In my example, of course, some of the tracks are, the blood from the garage to the back door. But it was on grass, so my mom couldn't necessarily track that. But one very good track, and is often found, was the almost imperceptible pause before I answered a question. I shouldn't have had any trouble answering that question, but I paused, and she should have keyed on that. But you've got a lot of interception or interference going on when some of these things happen. I mean, I'm bleeding all over her floor, for example. She's distracted. I'm crying. The urgency of the wound itself. So there's no doubt my mom missed that track. But had she been tuned in, she would have seen it and known that Joey wasn't telling the whole truth. So tracks are found during the interview. For example, when you start out an interview with somebody, let's say you're auditing the head of some department, the small talk in the very beginning of the interview is extremely important because it's then that you watch the speaker's communication patterns, the eye blinking, the speech tone, the inflections in their voice, the rhythm of their speech, whether or not they curl their lips when saying certain things, how quickly their eyes blink, when their eyes don't blink, what's their eye contact, how's their breathing. you monitor all of that, and that's one of the things you learn in my book is how to become good at that. You monitor all that, and then you calibrate with these easy questions to the person you're interviewing so that you have some foundation for later when you ask some critical questions. You can then compare those responses, those communication patterns, to the response and communication pattern when they answer critical questions. So, for example, if they don't look you in the eye during an interview, but during those initial questions, but later they do, that doesn't necessarily mean there's deception. That just means you got to be on top of things and make sure that you noted that difference in behavior, and then ask more questions to drill down on that response to find out what the real truth is, or what the reason was behind that change in behavior. So the key thing is to calibrate to the individual. And then remember that there will be distractions, both intentional and unintentional. That you'll have people who will know, for example, that you have a time limit on how much time you could spend during the audit. They may know your schedule better than you do, and they will intentionally distract you. They may give you voluminous, superfluous, or do other things to distract you from your mission, causing you to have a shorter window to get the job done, and therefore you may not find what they don't want you to find. So you got to be keyed into all of those things, and you got to be ready to change your schedule if need be. I remember when I was a field inspector for the state police, I used to go out like an auditor and check all the posts for compliance, effectiveness, and efficiency. And one post, I didn't discover it right away, but later, an hour or so into the morning, I noticed that the waitresses at the restaurant, the post commander had invited me out for coffee, and the waitresses at the restaurant were intentionally serving slowly to keep me out of the post. So you got to be tuned into that sort of thing because everyone you talk to has a strategy to keep you from doing your job the way you want to do it. So,
wow, that's an incredible story.
Yeah, you got to keep all that in mind.
Thank you, Joe, for spending so much time. I know that this has been an insightful interview, and I'm confident our listeners just got a lot of value hearing about, the way you've described how deception happens and ways to uncover it. And as a reminder to our listeners, you can purchase Joe's new book, Getting the Truth, on Amazon.com. Thank you again, Joe, for sharing your wonderful insight in getting to the truth for our listeners. Joe, thanks.
Thank you, Sonia, and thanks for your service.
Thank you. This is Sonia Luna, CEO and founder of Aviva Spectrum, signing off.